Any second now. I think we're good now. Yeah, we're good. Excellent. All right, how's it going, everybody? It's your host Nadal with the episode 6 of the Film Planet podcast, and
Small as well.
today we're going to be running down a couple things, not a whole lot. Probably the biggest point of focus here would be the comments made by actor turned director, I guess you could say now, Jodie Foster.
She still acts.
Well, I mean,
not as much.
Directing seems to be her focal point right now, is what I'm saying. Like, if she were to ask her, I'm a director. But, you know, she made some comments about superhero films, kind of watering down the industry, making certain things less important because fans they'll be expecting a specific set of things to happen. So we're gonna kind of break that down. James
said it was like a theme park.
Yeah, theme park. But we'll kind of we'll read her out her direct quote, you know, so that we're 100% clear about it and everything. And then I think there was some small controversy with the Slender Man trailer, and just kind of what that movie is based off of, the story behind it, which will also, I think we both have not strong opinions, but we have some stuff to say about that. And then we finally went to go see Jumanji. I know it was a 2017 film, but it was kind of a backlog for us. And we'll kind of have like a quick little thought process on what we thought about that movie. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into the Jodie Foster thing. So I'll just start. I'm just going to read her comment, and then from there, we'll go from there. So in an interview, a radio interview, she was asked about superhero film, or just the industry in general. And this is quote unquote what she said. "Going to the movies has become like a theme park," said Foster. "Studios making bad content in order to appeal to the masses and shareholders is like fracking. You get the best return right now, but you wreck the earth. It's ruining the viewing habits of the American population and then ultimately the rest of the world. I don't want to make $200 million movies about superheroes." So that's kind of everyone took the one word out of that, the superhero films.
Yeah. I
took it, what it actually is she's talking about big spectacle films. So she's talking about Jurassic World, superhero films, Transformers, Lord of the Rings. She's talking about these big, giant spectacle films that have, in her eyes, no substance. Which I can sit here and agree that for some of them, that is absolutely true.
Right.
I mean, what are your thoughts on her? Could she have worded it better? And maybe not, because obviously people stuck on the superheroes part. Clearly,
I think it all boils down to quality.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't look at it as now I have a problem. These movies are kind of costing too much.
Yeah.
Because some of these movies, they'll be like, it's made for like $90 million, and you'll see the special effects, and you was like, that's a $90 million movie. When I just watched like Ex Machina, which was made on $15 million, and looks fantastic.
Yeah.
So, but as far as the comments, I'm like, it depends on the quality. I mean, that's what it boils down to. If it's a good story behind it,
yeah.
You know, if it's thought out, like Harry Potter spectacle films, but they're well thought out, has a story, it has character development. So, I mean, I don't think that's bad. Now, so you get something like Transformers, straight, you know, yeah. Michael Bay, straight. It's marketing and advertising.
It is a turn your brain off movie. That's right. What Transformers. You don't go to Transformers to watch a thought-provoking film. You go there to switch your brain off for 2 hours.
And it's okay to have dumb fun. And this notion that comic book movies are killing the industry, I mean, you have to look at it like this. Back in the 60s and 70s, like the superhero movies was westerns, spaghetti westerns.
Yeah.
It was Clint Eastwood. It was Charles Bronson. It was Henry Fonda. Like, that was a superhero. Marlon Brando, Shane.
80s and the 90s,
it was slasher films.
And then even action heroes.
Yeah, you had like, your chiseled up white dudes shooting everybody.
All of the lethal weapons.
Right.
And they ran Lethal Weapon into the dirt. Like,
I love it.
No, that's a guilty pleasure for me. I could watch them all. They're all good to me. But like, if they were to come out today, people are like, wow, they're really running that franchise into the dirt. Hence the TV show. That's another.
But they do try to franchise everything.
They
That's
do try
the
to
problem
franchise.
I have with the industry right now. Like Sicario, for example, I didn't need a sequel.
It doesn't need
the story wrapped up very well.
It had a
with
beginning,
the first
middle,
movie.
end. It didn't need a sequel to that.
And Emily Blunt was the key component of that movie.
She brought that movie. Well, we don't know if she's in it, but
I don't think she's in
probably
it
not. But
she was filming Mary Poppins at the time.
That's true.
So
but,
they say.
It's one of those things where I actually kind of agree with her to a certain extent. She might have generalized a little too much, but obviously it's a comment, directly pulled from an interview, so we can only assume what she said, So I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt when I say this, because I think it was actually a press tour for Black Mirror, because she does direct the second episode of that.
Archangel.
Yeah, Mark. So it's she. I mean, you have to take this for what it is, but at the same time, it also might. I didn't listen to the rest of the interview. I've just pulled this direct quote from it. I agree with her to a certain extent. But like you said, if the quality's there and the time and efforts put into the script and the story, it doesn't matter if it has a $10 million budget or a $200 million budget. Obviously, there are certain things that can be done with that bigger budget, but you're not, as a moviegoer,
and I
you're not going to miss
understand her where a lot of smaller films are getting the back burner, but they broke it down now.
Yeah.
That's why you have Oscar season. That's why you have like late in the winter. But I will say that a lot of these blockbusters, like a Star Wars, is starting to blend in that. So I'm kind of
well. Let me ask you this: people said, or really not people. Not there was people who were there was a 50. It was a 50-50 split. But the voice of the people who are happy about the Fox Disney deal they loved it. But these are the same people that are saying that there is still originality in these superhero films and stuff like that. And I feel like those people are the same people saying that she's wrong.
But it is originality for now.
That's what I'm saying though. For now, maybe she's in the industry, so she might see trends years in advance.
Yeah, I mean she's Jodie Foster,
so she's gonna see things happen. She's been in the business for she's. I don't want to use the word royalty here, but she's almost Hollywood royalty in her own right. She's been in the game a very long time.
She carved the path.
Yeah, and she might recognize a trend further down the road than us people looking from the outside in.
Or a fan.
Yeah, exactly. She's gonna see something, and this might be her recognizing like, hey,
right,
maybe that Fox Disney deal wasn't that great, and now you're gonna see bigger budget films, but you're not gonna see a lot of new. So maybe that's what she's trying to say.
Didn't James Gunn come with some counterpoints?
James Gunn. Well, I wouldn't even say counterpoints. He kind of
elaborated.
He just elaborated a little more, kind of like what we just did. He's like, she wasn't really talking about superhero films, guys.
Right.
She was just talking. So I'll read his direct quote. I can't honestly remember how he did. I believe it was an interview. He was asked about it, and he gave something he clearly had been thinking about it.
Right.
But this is his response. I think Foster looks at film in an old-fashioned way, where a spectacle film can't be thought-provoking. It's often true, but not always. Her belief system is pretty common, and it isn't totally without basis. I say not without basis because most studio franchise films are quite soulless, and that is a real danger to the future of movies. But there are also quite a few exceptions. For cinema to survive, I believe spectacle films need to have a vision and heart they traditionally haven't. And some of us are doing our best to move in that direction, creating spectacle films that are innovative, humane, and thoughtful, and what excites me, and that's what excites me about this job. Sorry. But to be fair, at least from Foster's quotes, she seems to see filmmaking as something that's primarily about her own personal growth. For me, that may be part of why I do this, but spending many millions of dollars on a film has to be about more than that. It's communication, so my experience is merely one spoke on that wheel, but I respect Foster and what she has done for films, and I appreciate her different way of looking at Hollywood's landscape. So, in a nutshell, he's like, I'm not really going to say she's wrong, but I'm also going to admit that, what she's identifying a problem as is a problem.
So kind of mid. Right.
Like, she's right, but at the same time, like, I ain't trying to shoot myself in the foot because I'm the one making these films.
But Guardians of the Galaxy, especially the second one, all out.
That's what I'm saying though. But that's what he at the same time he's like, hey, you can have these big budget films, but as long as they're thought out and you actually put time into the scripts, it makes sense.
Yeah, but I think, like I said, it's nothing wrong with a spectacle film.
Absolutely
I just
not.
think is the franchising of these movies is getting outrageous. Like,
why does there always have to be a sequel? Why can't anything just be a standalone story?
Right.
Anymore?
People were saying they wanted an Interstellar sequel.
For what?
Or an Inception sequel. I'm like, the story was told. Why you need a sequel to those movies?
Luckily, the guy directed it and wrote those films. You're not going to get a sequel, so he won't budge on that. And I'm pretty sure he owns most of the rights to those films, right?
I'm not sure on that.
Yeah, I don't know. That obviously, at the end of the day, even though they created something, that doesn't mean they own it.
Right.
Because you can create something all day long, but if somebody else put their money up to make it happen, it belongs to them.
Yeah.
But obviously, he's a big enough director to say, hey, you can't make that without me.
Right.
And most studios will respect that because he could very easily go write something else for somebody else. They want to keep that good business relationship. So, I mean, I think, like you said, you can have spectacle films. I think you almost need them. I would, as much as I like to watch a good movie, I do need that guilty pleasure, turn my brain off movie where I can
it's
just
a time and place for everything.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
and everything's timing. Like, let me kind of spin this back around. It's this notion that comic book movies are killing the industry, and it's like everything has its phase.
Yeah.
And then eventually dies out, and something else takes that mantle. Yep. I mean, it was spaghetti westerns. Then it became the slasher flicks. Because, I mean, in the early 80s, it went crazy. You had Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street. Yep. You had Hellraiser. Yeah. You had Friday the 13th.
And then what, like 8
Child's Play. Yeah. Child's Play. And then towards the mid and then the 90s, it was like you said, action crazy. You had First Blood, Commando, Bloodsport, Die Hard. I mean,
Rambo. Well, I guess Rambo was 80s, but
that's First Blood.
Oh, sorry, my bad. Sorry.
But, so Cobra.
Yeah, it's even the Karate Kid was kind of like an action hero.
Well, nah, Karate Kid was more of a coming of age story. I wouldn't say that was action. Karate Kid was definitely
action to me because I'm a big kung fu fan.
Come on, man, that was a straight coming of age story. It wasn't really no action in that movie.
What was it? The third one? I can't remember her name.
That was the fourth one.
The fourth one.
That's the next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank.
Yeah, that one.
I actually like that one better than the third one.
The third one. At a certain point, it was kind of like, okay, why are they still making these?
Yeah, the third one was.
And they did that remake with Jackie Chan and
the Kung Fu Kid. I don't know why they called it a Karate Kid and it was Kung Fu. Kung Fu is Chinese. Karate Kid is Japanese. Yeah. The movie was good, but that agitates me.
It was just like who replaces Mr. Miyagi? Oh, Jackie Chan.
Japanese, Chinese. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I think Jackie. No, you're right. He is Chinese. I was gonna say it was Korean, but yeah, he is Chinese. He's played Korean people all the time in his movies, though. But no, I mean, for the most part, I agree with her statements. But I'd be lying if I said that I feel like she was generalizing a little too much, and she should have been a little bit more specific. And she probably could have left the superheroes comment out of it, right? Because that's what they latched onto the superhero thing, and she wasn't even really talking about those directly.
Right.
It was kind of like it's the first thing that popped in my head. I'm gonna say it. So I mean, and like you said, eventually fatigue will set in. People will stop watching the superhero films. It'll happen, whether you like it or not. It's gonna happen, and the next best thing will pop up. And I think you and we feel like it'll be video game. At least I do.
You feel?
I feel like it'll be video game movies. And a part of me wants that to happen because I think it'd be cool. But then the other half is like, oh God, I don't want that to happen because stuff like that, like the MCU has affected the way comic books are written now, haven't they?
Yeah, it is.
It's
tied into the movies.
Now they're starting to tie them into the movies, and even the comics are a little bit more like the films now.
Like for a while, they kind of got rid of the mutants and Inhumans kind of try to take place of the mutants. So
well, they did that because they don't want to give any adverse advertisement to the Fox or anything like that, right?
Right.
It was just a giant petty move, is what it was.
Right.
It was a giant business petty move. But no, I mean we'll see. At the end of the day, it's no control over us. These studios, they can make something very popular when they want to.
Right.
It's just a matter of marketing and things like that. It's all up to them, whether they want to do it or not. I guess the second half of the podcast talk about that Slenderman controversy, and we're not going to really talk about just the Slenderman film on this aspect, but just things in general like this.
Yeah.
So the controversy, I kind of just recently read up on it because I honestly didn't even know about this case until I read up about it. But apparently, this film is based off a attempted murder case.
It's not based off. It was a creepypasta short film.
Yeah.
And the character
it's like a little fan made. It's like almost like a GIF.
He makes people. It's kind of like a supernatural entity that makes people do murders, and he mainly preys on younger people.
Yeah. And
I guess 2 girls, somewhere up north.
Yeah.
They took it serious, and they stabbed their friend to death. Well, nearly attempted murder.
Yeah, the person's still alive. Yeah,
still alive. So a lot of people say it's distasteful that they're making a Slender Man movie when a tragedy like this happened. And my gripe on that is stop watching horror movies, because most horror movies are inspired by
true events. Like
The Exorcism of Emily Rose was about a girl whose parents were kind of religious nuts, and she was actually mental ill with schizophrenia.
Yeah.
And they thought she was possessed when really she just probably had a mental illness and needed to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
So they would trap her in a room, and eventually I think she starved to death or something along those lines. I don't know the story for, detail for detail, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, most of these movies get inspiration from like serial killers, and look at The Strangers, for example.
Yeah.
So
I mean, what I guess what we're trying to say is, don't start getting a little offended that Hollywood is trying to bank on something, and I mean they are trying to bank on this. But when the Slender Man was popular, it was popular.
Right.
I mean, video games came out about that. Nobody said anything about that.
Right.
Minecraft, they had like a mod.
Yeah, they did.
Where they had the Slender Man in there.
They did.
So it was a cultural phenomenon whenever it came out that basically made feel like Slender Man was part of like the Freddys and the Jasons of the world.
And it looked like he was headed that direction.
Because just how he was like today's generation. Oh man, don't act bad, otherwise don't go out in the dark, because this will get you. Because I remember growing up, like Jason from Halloween, like I would be scared to take the trash out. Like we'd go watch a movie, and then my parents would, like, take the trash out. I'm like, I don't know about that. And it's just it's meant to play with you, but that's what Slender Man was, and Sony is basically just trying to, well, let's make this film now. And it's, guess what, guys? You can complain all you want. It's happening.
Right.
It's coming out. Sony, I promise you, thought about you guys whenever they were making this movie. Are they going to complain about this? And
controversy sells.
And Sony was like, yeah, but
in some cases,
yeah. I'll use the old adage: "There's no such thing as bad publicity." There is, but I'm just saying,
right.
In terms of this case, there is no such thing.
It's a horror movie.
There is no such thing as bad publicity. If anything, you guys bringing up that murder case again, or the attempted murder case, is going to drive people to that theater for it. Based off this, I promise you, Slender Man makes his money back easy.
Yeah, because horror movies are made dirt cheap too.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, we're gonna go see it because we got our mutual friend Regina. I know she's gonna drag us to it.
I don't know. He's not really a big fan of Slender Man, I think.
But she likes horror films.
But we'll see.
We'll see. It's an interesting film to go watch just based off the controversy alone. Take that comment and do with it what you will. But I'm not the only one thinking that. And then last but not least, today's a shorter podcast, slower news week, really. We went and finally saw Jumanji. And my God. Woo! Well, buddy, what were your thoughts on it?
It was dumb, fun, unbiased. I didn't care for it because why attach the Jumanji name? They could have made this movie without the Jumanji name, and it could have still been the same movie. Like, I didn't understand the purpose. Because originally they were supposed to do a prequel to the Robin Williams Jumanji. And I thought that would have been...
That would have been cool.
Yeah, that would have been cool, and it would have been better for the story. This is like, why even attach Jumanji to it? And something else about the movie is all the characters acted like previous roles they already did before. Like Kevin Hart, he was typical Kevin Hart when his stand-up.
He literally plays every role the same. There is no variation whatsoever in his
The
acting.
Rock went back to the rundown WWE days.
Yep.
Harry and Gillen, she did the same thing, like Doctor Who. She was basically Amy from Doctor Who. And Jack Black, who I think was the best in the movie.
Absolutely.
He even was Jack Black, but he had something to play with because he had to act like a teenage girl. So he had a lot of funny moments.
That is true. His writing specifically probably the door was wider open for him to be a little bit more free with it, whereas the other guys are just like, don't variate, don't go anywhere else.
Right.
This is your line, say it, move on.
And the Jonas was all right. He was okay.
You can tell he hasn't really acted that much.
Yeah.
Side note to that, I wouldn't mind seeing him in some other films just to see. Jumanji might not have been the best debut. I think he's been in other things, but
I wouldn't say that. It's killing the box office.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not taking away from a business standpoint, but from a film standpoint, watching that movie, it wasn't good.
Yeah, but if he turns into a bankable actor, I have a hot.
Well, that's what I see.
I told you the hot take I have. I think The Rock is a better dramatic actor than he is action star.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I think movies like Gridiron Gang, Walking Tall,
the stuff that made him famous,
even the Game Plan, the Disney movie. Yeah. I think he did a great job as a football player trying to take care of this daughter that was just dropped on him.
And he even kind of did it a little bit in San Andreas. That was for the most part a disaster movie.
Yeah, but that was kind of his wheelhouse that he's coming
But that one was probably out of his wheelhouse. Was probably the loosest for him to kind of get a little bit more dramatic. Because he was just trying to save his daughter. He wasn't killing a bunch of people.
Nah, I did like Faster.
Faster?
It's kind of like
that was good.
Modern Western. Yeah,
that was good. That was a good film. I remember watching that because I never saw it in theaters. I saw it on Redbox. Yeah. And that first scene where he walked into the office, not first scene, but when he walks into the office and just shoots that dude in the face, that movie just keeps ramping up from there. It's a good film. And then a Scorpion King. That's his greatest thing ever. That's a guilty pleasure, man. I like Scorpion King. It's terrible, but I like it. But I mean, yeah, it's Jumanji was. That was like a 2 out of 10. If I was put a number on it,
I give it a maybe.
Yeah,
3.5, 4.
That'd be a good example of a film where you turn your brain off and just enjoy it.
Yeah.
But it's The Rock. They basically were banking on The Rock plus Jumanji bringing in a lot of money.
And it did.
And like you said, maybe just the Rock aspect of it alone would have made money.
The Rock, Kevin Hart.
Jack Black. People like Jack Black.
Yeah.
Plus he's kind of coming back. Like he's been gone for a while. Plus he has Goosebumps 2 coming out, I think like end of the year or early next year. So Jack Black is slowly kind of making that resurgence. Will he ever be a lead man again? Probably not, but that's besides the point. No, I mean, for the most part, it was a slower news week.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
We both saw 2 movies that the other person ain't seen. You seen Bright, I seen The Greatest Showman. How about you just do a brief review of what you think of that?
Because I've actually watched it twice at this point. I wanted to watch it twice. That Bright was by no means a perfect film. Now, I want to say this. I like Lord of the Rings. I like that setting. And then it combined that kind of gritty police story, which I think that I like as well. But I just want to preface this with it before I talk about it. about a 7 out of 10. A solid
A
7.
7 out of 10, bro.
A 7
I
out
heard that
or I'm
movie
sorry,
is getting dragged.
not 7 out of 10. 6.5 out of 10.
Really?
It's what people are dragging it for made no sense to me. One of the things I'll use it. Do you mind if I use? I mean, this is gonna be spoilers on this. Are you cool with that?
I am gonna watch it.
Well, this is okay. The movie is there's an underlying theme about equality in the film, and
yeah, but they say equality, but they say at the beginning of the movie, the first part is he slaps a fairy and said, "Fairy lives don't matter
that's
today."
The exact point I'm about to make. Let me explain. Let me break this down to people because they seem to have lost it in the context of the film, and even the writing was very obvious about it. They just straight up in the lines described to you this world. The humans didn't just find out about orcs and elves. They have been around since the beginning of time. They've all lived together since the beginning of time.
Right.
Just like you would kill a rat without second thought, that's what fairies are in that world.
Okay.
In that world of Bright, that's what they're rodents. That the fairy lives don't matter line probably was unnecessary because it added a certain tone to it. But fairies are basically rodents to that universe. So
see, that's kind of odd to me.
I
haven't seen the movie, but I'm saying, why would fairies be rodents?
If you watch the film in the fairy, it is clearly not coherent. It is a rabid little animal.
Okay.
So that's why I don't understand.
I have to watch the movie.
Yeah, but overall, it was a 6.5 out of 10 because it has some pretty weird plot holes in it. At some points the story didn't seem to grasp me the film lost me at certain points where I was just like, okay, I don't care about this part anymore. But I mean, overall, Netflix it's already been green. They're already shooting the sequel. So the sequel's happening, which means it probably made money. Netflix never releases numbers, so there's no way to know on here. But overall, I liked the film. It presented a cool little take on the fantasy genre, which has not been done in a very long time, in my opinion. It's outside of Star Wars, there hasn't been a new type of fantasy introduced.
What you mean? I disagree with that. I mean,
unless I'm just not thinking.
Harry Potter has a kind of modern take on fantasy.
I'm talking about in a more not an existing franchise, like a new franchise coming to take. So Fantastic Beasts is a new.
I'm not even talking about Fantastic Beasts. You said like since Star Wars, is in a galaxy far, far away, long time ago.
That's true.
Harry Potter, it kind of takes place.
Well, no, not modern world. I'm talking about.
Oh, you're talking conceptually.
Today, it hasn't. And that's another. We'll talk about it another podcast. You guys got to stop ripping these new films, because it's hard for me to sit here and be like, oh, you guys only give good reviews to existing franchises. And everything else that's a new franchise gets ripped.
But that's not true, though.
It's not true. What I'm saying is, what this movie was ripped by, like my critics and stuff, I'm sorry. They're not all wrong. They all had made valid points, all of them. But the way that it was
You're
ripped,
talking about the culture, but
it almost like, and this is even a new genre film. I think this came out on Netflix. And it didn't come out it didn't come out traditionally, but it has all these big name actors in it. There's no way it can be good, and that's how reviewers went into it.
So they went in with the mindset.
Said, "Oh, this is a straight to DVD thing." Here's the deal: the way the industry's going, straight to DVD is not a thing anymore. Straight to a streaming service like Hulu, Netflix, those are big budget films now. Netflix, honestly, they proved it with Bright. Whether you liked it or you didn't like it, they proved the concept works.
A lot of people liked it. I saw on my timeline. So.
It was the polar opposite of Star Wars.
Polar opposite?
Well, Star Wars is an extreme example, but the fans loved it and the critics hated it. Whereas Star Wars, it was all the critics liked it, but only 50% of the fans liked it.
I can't say 50% when it's 13th highest grossing movie all time.
I'm just take the business aspect out of it.
I'm just saying, I understand.
I understand, but what you just said though makes Jumanji a good film.
I'm not saying, but Last Jedi is not a bad film though.
But that's what I'm saying though. So the money aspect is hard to look at.
What I'm saying is all subjective. I'm not saying I haven't seen the movie, so I can't judge.
That's what I'm saying.
But what I'm saying is, to go back to your main point is you should go into any movie with an open mind.
Yeah.
You shouldn't go into the movie, oh, this is going to be bad. Because you're going to start nitpicking and finding stuff.
There's always, no movie's perfect. You're going to find something no matter
what. That's where I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's what I'm saying is, it's just, because you and I both, we love the experience of going to the theater, right?
Right.
And Netflix is kind of a threat to that, almost. I don't want to say threat. I don't think the theater's really ever going away.
The theater experience.
But Netflix is, they are bringing in that new, they're basically raising a generation of kids to not want to go to the theater. Mm-hmm. And big budget films with big budget actors like Will Smith, that's a nail. That's a nail in the coffin for certain theaters, you know?
Yeah.
And I think Hollywood people don't want that to happen. I think, what's his name? Chris Nolan. He was like, Netflix isn't necessarily good for the theater.
It's not. Nothing beats the theater experience.
Yeah, but nothing beats it. I mean, you and I personally
until you allow 120-inch flat screens in your house or something. Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where, well, here's the deal. If you want there to be a bigger theater experience, then you guys need to go out and support a lot of smaller films.
Right.
Instead of, I'll wait till, what's the comment people, I think you and I make this comment all the time. Because we do watch a lot of films, we don't always have the time to go see things. But I'll just catch that on Redbox. I'll just catch that on Netflix or Hulu.
Yeah, but we watch a lot of films, though. So
I'm just saying, like, there's people that aren't like us who watch 2 films a year. And everything else is, I'll just wait till it comes out on DVD. I'll just wait until it goes to
Fire Stick or something.
Yeah. So Netflix, I think, helps support it because they're going to highlight a smaller group of writers and filmmakers that otherwise your Sony, well, I think Sony actually helped make Bright, but you know, your Disney's not going to work with, your Fox isn't going to work with, your Universal Studios isn't going to work with. Because they need the spectacle films to happen, because that's what people will go watch.
Right.
So I mean, if Will Smith wasn't in Bright, would anyone, and they released it in theater, would anyone go see it? And people would go watch it, but would it?
Probably not.
It probably made more money because it came out on Netflix and because it had Will Smith. The barrier to entry was $8. And guess what? You also get access to 2,000 other movies and TV shows while you're at it. That's $8 well spent. It's a smart business decision from a consumer standpoint and a studio standpoint. Everyone wins. And then you said you went and watched Showman, which is not my cup of tea, really. But
I mean, the musical scores was okay. The problem with the movie is most biopics are not historically accurate, but this one, it kind of like. It was almost, it like damaged a woman's character. Like, it's a woman, spoiler alert, it's a woman that he wants to appeal to a different audience than the freaks and geeks, you know, so to speak. So it's a woman from Britain, but she's actually from Sweden, the actual woman. And they play this thing like she was trying to have an affair with him. Mm-hmm. You know, he wasn't trying to have an affair. It was strictly business with P.T. Barnum. And she was trying to have an affair. And then when you read her actual biopic, she actually was an advocate for women's rights. She was giving the money to charity.
So the actual person.
She didn't like how P.T. Barnum was exploiting her and exploiting other people.
And because the film, they completely swapped it.
Yeah, because, you know, P.T. Barnum, he got to start doing a minstrel show, doing blackface. That's how he got his start.
So P.T. Barnum's a piece of shit, and Hollywood made him look like put Hugh Jackman in it. Everyone loves the dude now.
And then the Zac Efron and she's the famous singer. I always pronounce her right. Zendaya.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
She those two characters didn't even exist.
So those are made up characters, which I don't really mind that.
I don't either.
But what you just said, the first one, the complete rehash.
But they always do that with, in a lot of these biopics, they always kind of.
But that's like you said about.
They always romanticize. They always romanticize a certain person, but. It's one thing to romanticize a popular person because you'll know their origin, their story. But when it's a lesser named person and you sabotage this individual's character who actually was a good person and nobody knows about him, to me that's shitty. Like that's pretty horrible.
That's what I was saying. Like the Zac Efron thing, adding characters that didn't exist, fine with that. But then taking existing characters and completely rewriting what they were about. That's messed up. That's like making like a slavery movie and all the slave owners are good people.
You can't even say it. That's kind of
it's
when you're holding, when you're oppressing a people.
That's what I'm saying.
You're never a good person.
That's what I'm saying though. But like they're trying to put them in a good light. But in this one, they took a good person and put her in a bad light.
Well, they tried to do that with 12 Years a Slave. That's one of my biggest knocks. Benedict Cumberbatch, they was trying to make him, he's the good slave owner. No, he's owning slaves.
He owns a slave, yeah. There's no such thing as a good slave owner. But that's what I'm saying, though, like, is if it's important to the essence of the character, keep it. Like you said with New Mutants. You said there was a couple of characters of color in the film, or in the comics, but they're not in the film. And you said... There's certain characters that their ethnicity and background lays into who they are.
Absolutely. You can't make T'Challa a white dude.
Oh, absolutely.
And at the same time, you can't make Magneto African American. Like
it's who they are is the essence of their character.
Right.
Another great example, and I didn't know about this, but The Tower with Idris Elba.
Dark Tower.
The Dark Tower. That character should have been white. Because he was a racist person.
And then he meets a black woman, exactly. Yeah.
So, but once you made him black, you took away the essence of that character, and you had the opportunity to drive home a message, and you threw the message away because you changed it. You casted it.
Yeah.
Not wrong, because Idris Elba is a good actor, but he deserves a better film, by the way. But it's casting him in that specific character probably wasn't the best choice because it does change the essence of that character.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if that was Stephen King's choice. Because remember when you were talking about that PBS show?
I don't think it was Stephen King's choice.
You think that was just Hollywood?
I think he would have read the story because it's a redemption tale.
Yeah.
And you take away the redemption of that character by incorporating that. But
well, they try to replace it with he's trying to avenge his father. He's given up, but then he wants to avenge his father. But the movie wasn't that great. But I get what you're saying is don't change the essence of the character. There's no need to just add something to add it.
Right.
Or remove something
that dragged the movie. I mean, the musical numbers was good.
Yeah.
The choreography.
You're talking about just from that specific standpoint.
Yeah.
That probably wasn't the best part of it. Yeah. And then another
thing. It's an enjoyable movie, but the luster's definitely knocked off once you read about all these things.
Yeah. So. And then my brother actually brought up something. We were driving. I took him to the store earlier today, and he brought this up. It's just kind of on subject. I can't remember. He directed The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. All those films. I can't remember the director.
Wes Anderson.
Wes Anderson. This wasn't a controversy. He just was reading Twitter and he mentioned this to me. And he said that, have you noticed there's not a lot of African American characters in Wes Anderson films?
Right.
What I would ask to you is, would any of those films been better or worse casting a different person of color?
I kind of see where Amir's coming from.
A black person, because he has casted a lot of people of color in his films.
The Grand Budapest Hotel, which I enjoyed.
The main character was an Indian child.
Right. So I just feel like, in that case, I mean, does it lend itself to the story?
That's what I'm saying. Like, are we just putting a black guy in here to appease, people of color? or does that character benefit from being a person?
A great example of that is I heard the same thing with Tim Burton movies, and I'm like, yeah, most of Tim Burton movies are pale corpse. Can a black person pull off a? I know they can. That was a joke, but I know you, but you know what I'm saying. To me, it's a slippery slope because at the same time, it makes you question like, why hasn't been, you know?
Because I've never viewed Wes Anderson, and I don't say I'm a huge fan, but I do enjoy his films. You know, some films they're a lot of fun to watch.
They're very eccentric.
Yeah, but because he just has that very unique look and vision, which I like. You know, but I've never viewed him as that guy that's avoiding actors of color or certain religious topics. You know what I mean? He's always just been the guy's like, I have an idea for a film. I wrote it down. I got greenlit. Here it is.
It's who I want.
And it's who I want for it. And they've never been big actors. And he reuses the same actors.
That's why I say it's a slippery slope. Because Ryan Coogler uses Michael B. Jordan in a lot of his movies. Yeah. Are you going to start saying,
why isn't there white people in his
Ryan
films?
Coogler, you're big enough now where you do a lot of big budget movies. Yeah. Why you ain't doing the white people? You know, I think it's a slippery slope.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, just saying it because you want people of color in a film, I understand you want to support that and you want people of color to be more prominent in Hollywood. They will be. Remember, everything comes in phases. And I think we're in
they do. I don't.
Well, that's one of the things that's not really.
Women of color don't get no love like they should versus their white counterparts.
Absolutely.
But that's another subject for another day. It's another subject.
But I'm just saying, for a general statement for right now, it'll come. Give it time. But a lot of the time is the same people complain and don't support these films anyway.
Right.
Like, I think you said about Black Panther. People like, oh, white people, you can't go see this movie. Like, no, you want people to go see this movie.
Right.
The more money it makes, the better it is. Doesn't matter who's watching it, just the better it is.
Supply and demand.
Supply and demand. If there's no one watched it, if they spent $500 million on a movie and it made 100, guess what you're not getting?
The Black Panther sequel.
You're not getting it. It's that simple. And then there's another movie coming out. I can't remember what it's called. I honestly can't remember. I want to highlight this because it is on subject, and then I think we'll be done for the day. See if I can find it real quick. No, they just tweeted this out. The trailer just dropped for it. There we go. Proud Mary. It seems like a pretty good film.
Right.
It's something that is different.
I think Proud Mary, based on the trailer, comes out next week. Actually, I think it's trying to honor it's not honor, but kind of pay homage to the blaxploitation flicks of like the 70s, because Proud Mary kind of plays on Foxy Brown.
Yeah.
It looks cool. But I just wanted to that's another reason it goes back to saying women of color need more representation, because it seems like black women, they're either like, you know, the old mama or
the victim in some way.
The victim in some way, or you know, they under white man. And even if they're action stars, they're kind of in a blaxploitation flick. Yeah. That's why I think Black Panther's so cool, because we're seeing like warrior women, and each have their unique set of skills.
Absolutely, right. I mean, for Black Panther, a lot of prominent power within his leadership are women. Yeah, are women. His mother, the person that's like his royal guard. I can't remember because I'm not familiar with the universe at all. But
Nakia Okoye and Shuri is his sister.
Yeah. So I mean, it's everyone that's helps him operate as Black Panther are women of color more specifically.
Like, this is dope to see.
It looks cool. It looks cool. Basically, she looks like a badass assassin. And you know my opinion on this movie is I'm down to go watch those no matter what. I just like that. Assassins and stuff. all that stuff is dope to me. There's nothing wrong with that stuff. So I'm excited for that. But like I said, I mean that was this week's episodes. Shorter episode than normal. I think we still went on for the normal.
I know we kind of got the rambling on.
Yeah,
but it was.
There were certain things we wanted to get out there and say. Don't really want to save a lot of stuff for another week.
But next week will probably be tighter because we're reviewing 2 movies: The Commuter with Liam Neeson, another Liam Neeson action movie.
Yeah.
And The Post with Meryl Streep, Tom Hanks, about the Washington Post uncovering the Vietnam controversy.
Directed by Spielberg too.
Directed by the GOAT. So yeah.
So I mean, it's from starting next week. It's going to be a pretty tight ship from there.
Yeah, we'll be a tighter ship from there
because it's going to be a lot more reviews, a lot more. Okay, what's next? So we'll see. But anyways, that was today's podcast, episode 6. It'll be uploaded to YouTube later today, and then catch it on Twitter, on YouTube. Like, share, comment,
subscribe.
The feedback is always wanted and needed. Peace.
Deuces.